Hello. I would like to tell you some stories today. Back in 1967, a new TV show, Dragnet, used this opening. The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Well, my stories are also true, and I do not name any names. So let's get started. This story is about some of my early memories. Perhaps my earliest memory is sitting on my mother's lap while she read to me. What I remember the best is seeing the pictures in the book, and specifically pictures of people fighting with spears and swords. I recalled the name of the book was Book of Mormon Stories, and it was read. That was in about 1950. That was all I remembered. Now let's fast forward to 2001. My mother had died and my dad was living alone. My mother had always done the cooking and house cleaning. Consequently, Dad wasn't doing too well. When we visited him, there was stuff stacked all over the house. Basic cleaning wasn't getting done. Food in the refrigerator was growing moldy, and the kitchen was anything but clean. After several months of trying to help, we children got together and moved Dad out. He would come live with us on a rotation basis of where he wanted to go. The house was cleaned and remodeled and sold. During the moving process, I kind of looked for the book, and my sister told me Mom had given it to her. My sister was kind enough to give it to me because of my memories about it. My sister also told me Mom had worn out her first copy and purchased another one in 1977. I didn't care because I wasn't concerned about age value, only the content. And I'm not surprised the original was worn out. This is the book. The author is Emma Mar Peterson. I looked her up. She was the wife of Mark E. Peterson, one of the church leaders when I was younger. The copyright is 1951, making me about 3 years old when Mom read it to me. I'm hoping I'm not violating her copyright. She's dead, but someone probably owns it. I hope this is fair use and this video won't be monetized. It's not a Book of Mormon, just some illustrated stories from it. You can see my copy is almost worn out. Here are a couple of the pictures that I remembered. This one shows the Lord touching the stones with his finger. This one shows Nephi is bound by his brothers in the ship. This one shows the 2,000 stripling warriors in a fight, and they are injured, but none of them die. That picture is the one I remembered the best. In this one, Abinadi is burned at the stake. And this last picture is Christ visiting the New World and blessing the children. The artist was Melton E. Swenson, and he did a wonderful job. I think you can see why I was attracted to these pictures and why I remembered them even more than what Mom told me about them. Some of my other earlier memories are about my grandparents and why I loved visiting them. This is my grandparents on my mother's side. They only had 2 girls. I liked to go there because they lived across the street from a jet. Yes, a jet. Of course, I didn't find that unusual at the time. I just knew I could look out their front window and see a jet. It was on a stand and it was across the street. Another thing I remember is Grandpa was a good gardener. His backyard was mostly garden, and after he retired, he spent a lot of time out there. And Grandma is the one who taught me to love cottage cheese, hot dogs, and bananas, and I still do. They really spoiled us kids. They were very sweet and accepting. I don't remember ever being yelled at or disciplined in any way by them, and there were times they should have been. One time was when I was very young, probably just beginning to walk. I recall having a temper tantrum and laying on the floor kicking. One of my kicks shattered Grandma's glass china cabinet door. A few years later, while I was still a child, my grandparents and the jet were moved out of their home to make way for a freeway interchange. But I always wondered once or twice over the years where the jet had gone. Many years later, I stumbled upon it again. I learned that it was part of an Air National Guard building. They had built a new building about 20 miles to the south and took the jet with them. This is a picture of its new home. This is my grandparents on my father's side. They had 3 girls and 6 boys, which meant I had a lot of uncles and aunts. My grandparents had a home yard that was a child's dream. First of all, there were railroad tracks directly across the street. We did a lot of coin smashing when the trains came by. They also had a big electrical tower in their yard. It was about twice the height of their house. I was tempted to climb it, but they told us we would be fried to death if we did, so I never did. I wouldn't be surprised if one of my uncles did, but they were all still alive as I grew up, so probably they didn't climb all the way to the top. They had a tall rope swing that was tied high up in a big old tree. If my memory serves me right, the first swing was a tire swing. I say that because I have a picture of me on that tire swing, and I'm pretty sure it was at Grandma's house. Sometime later, it was replaced with a seat swing because I remember the seat swing the best. It was hard to get started by yourself. Little kids had to have someone push them higher and higher until the pusher could run under you. You could keep it going for a long time. It was a lot of fun. Their old sheds and barns provided us kids exploring places. We scared the birds away and kicked the cats out and killed the spiders and had many hours of fun. There were all kinds of old farm stuff and household stuff to keep us busy for hours. I found some barn and shed pictures on the internet that kind of give you an idea of what they were like. But one shed was always locked and I never got into it. Years later, after Grandpa had died, I asked Grandma why it was always locked. She told me that was where Grandpa's tools were kept. Now that I have a shop and grandkids, I understand. These 2 pictures show me as a youngster in a walker, visiting with one of the neighbor boys and his dog. In the other picture, I'm a toddler investigating the firewood box. The last attraction their yard had for me was several old cars that were junked and parked in the rear yard. I don't have a picture of them, but this photo of a wrecked car in a junkyard comes close. Some were in better shape than others. I had 6 uncles, and they grew up when cars were things that you had to do a lot of work on to keep them running. The junkers left to rust in the backyard was probably their spare parts store. This picture is of my dad and his brother by their Model T truck. Yes, Dad is the cocky one leaning on the truck. Dad and most of his brothers became engineers of one kind or another, and working on their old cars probably helped steer them in that direction. I know they were all very handy. Anyway, I recall climbing up into one of those old junkers and sitting into the steering wheel. I could see across the field about a half a mile, where a business had trucks coming and going. I would put my hands on the top of the wheel and swing from side to side while making engine sounds and pretending I was driving a truck. Like my other grandparents, these grandparents also had to move to make room for progress. I think a large industrial park is there now. Several years ago, I tried to find where their old home was, but I couldn't. There's still a railroad line in the area, but I don't know if it's the same one. Even the street they live on now ends a couple of miles from my grandparents' old address. Well, that's enough for this video. Thank you for your time.